long, and hope everyone has enjoyed a little bit of the mind break and the mind stretch. In the earlier session, we have learned a lot about how managers are going, or HR professionals going to manage people physically working in different locations, different countries, or even different time zones. And in this session, we're going to move from more of physical flexibility into more like a skill-based flexibility, a little bit more about the learning and development for your workforce. And on the topic of creating the skill-based route to an adaptable workforce. A quick introduction about myself. I am the editor for DigitalWorkforceTrends, and today we have a great panel to join us for this discussion. And let me first introduce them on stage now. First, I'd like to introduce Ms. Mukta Arya. She's the Managing Director, Regional Head of HR APAC with Société. Hi, Mukta. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Sheila. Good to be here.
Great. And then we also have CY Chen. He's the Chief People Officer from Prenetics. Hi, CY.
Hi, everyone.
Good to have you join us. Last but not least, we have Christophe Randy. He's the VP of APAC with Panelists. Hi, Christophe. Hi. Maybe you're mute, are you? Yes, I think you're mute.
Yes. Good morning, everyone.
Yay, welcome.
Happy to be here. Hi, Sheila.
Yeah, we have a really informative morning earlier in the discussion, and I think we have a really great panel today because we do have panelists coming from really different industries and sectors. I'm talking about skill sets. I think we have obviously CY from healthcare, Mukta from finance, and Christophe from more technology sector. All these sectors seems to have a pretty specific skill sets that is required. Maybe do you want to share with us, I'll just throw this question to all the panelists to start with, what does actually a skill-based approach mean for you guys, and to play adaptive, workforce? Would you, maybe I'll pose this first to Mukta. Would you like to start, Mukta?
Okay, so for us, we are an investment bank in APAC. In our environment, skills, people are everything, even though it may sound a bit cliched that people are our most important asset, but that's what we have. And for us, skills which are, changing over time, what is happening in the world, the model for banking, which is changing, technology, which is coming in and changing the way our customers and our clients are behaving. So for us, this becomes very important that our employees are upskilled at every single milestone, or every single, we have to update them on a regular basis, aligning with what our clients' needs are. So this is important. And what we have to do is do it on a regular basis, continuous basis, keep an eye to the outside, what is happening, and really being very agile in our learning and development. And for me, the workforce has to be adaptive. There are no two ways about it. If we don't change, we'll be forced to change. So what we try to do within HR is to be more proactive and try to ascertain what kind of skills will be required, maybe 1 year, 2 year, 3 year down the line, and then how do we become future ready and work on it. Yeah. So it requires a lot of effort, but I think that's what it is. I mean, if we don't do it, we'll be obsolete. So for me, it is not a nice to have, it's a necessity.
Yeah, I guess finance really is a fast-moving industry, and particularly with all the fintech, little challenger startup popping up, then I guess it's also a lot of competing with the workforce. And talking about moving fast, I think healthcare sector has been really the star of in the past couple of years for any industry. Siwa, would you like to share with us a bit? Because healthcare could also be very specific in terms of skill set. How do you bring like a more adaptive workforce with such a specific, skill set industry?
Sure. So I think a little bit background about ourselves. So Prenetics is 7 or 8 years ago, we're still a startup with less than 15 people. But now we have grown to about like 600, 700 people around the world. But in the past 24 months, we're probably known as a COVID testing provider in Hong Kong or in the UK. But indeed, what we're doing is I think healthcare is just half of what we should describe ourselves. We are actually a healthcare tech company. So when we talk about that, we're a healthcare tech company, which means, of course, we need people who have this knowledge and skill set of genetic testing, blood testing, and all kinds of healthcare related products that we are developing. But at the same time, we need the people to also adopt to use every technology that is available that can bring us to our customers or any other stakeholders, including doctors, hospitals, B2B partners. So basically what we're trying to do is to build an ecosystem through technology. So for us to be adaptive, first of all, I think as the people and culture team in this company, what we're trying to do is to set up something, of course, I think the soft side is about the environment. Because I think most of the talents in our team, they are basically Gen Z or millennials. They're eager to learn, they know what they want. But the thing is how you set up the environment where they have flexibility and time to really learn, and also set up the resources using internal wiki, using a lot of like internal references that they can just go get in there and then learn. So of course, there are still skill sets like leadership or like performance related coaching that we need the more traditional way of telling them, hey, you as a leader, you need to like know something about a leader, because by default, they grow up like a subject matter expert, or they're just like still young as a leader. So I think there are different ways or different topics that we need to develop them. And obviously, as a company, we also need to be adaptive in a sense where whenever things change, like the disappearing of wave 5 of COVID, then you know that the skill set now will be shifted back to the core products that we're going to launch. So that would be, yeah, to start with some of the sharing from my team.
Sure. Yeah, I guess it also adopt based on how the industry change and the demand from the market. And Christophe, I think you wear two hats here, right? Apart from, obviously running the business with Panepto, you also need to manage your people within Panepto in Asia. Maybe can you share a little bit, how does, for technology companies and for Panepto, how does adaptive workforce means?
Oh,
Or what does it mean? Yeah.
with pleasure. So at Panepto, what we do is that we help businesses to create searchable video content libraries that are very easy to share securely. And what we do is that we enable anyone with a PC or a mobile and a webcam to very easily create a content, upload it to a secure platform and share it across the organization. And obviously the pandemic has brought a lot of change to how companies operate, because they had to scramble and be able to operate remotely at first. And now some companies go back to a hybrid remote role. And so skills-based approach for us is two things. One, we need to have staff who are able to take our clients where they are in their digital transformation journey. Some companies are very advanced. They know what video content management means. Others had to find, solutions when pandemic struck, but they are not exactly sure how they should be adopting how to train, reskill employees and using video. And so we need to have people who can walk our clients through their decision process, understand the interest of technology, and identify where we can have the biggest impact. And obviously, because we sell a technology product, we need to have a good balance between technical know-how to be able to adapt, how you speak to an IT manager as opposed to a learning and development officer, but as well across geographies, because we operate across the whole of Asia Pacific with our clients. And we have colleagues in the US, since our HQ is in Seattle, and with the capacity to work asynchronously with videos that obviously we use internally to be able to operate in a very fluid manner.
Great. Yeah, I think, the technology really sector really is quite a spread out operation a lot of the time. So I guess, like having, and it truly is marrying like both hard skills and soft skills, right? Because especially when you are trying to build that business and sell the product. So you need that both hard course technology skills and also the soft skills in managing people and working with people. I think the next question I want to ask is about, identifying gaps and also anticipating, skills you need, because as we all know, skills doesn't miraculously, arrive. And even when you hire someone new, you still need to, get them on board, and it takes time to even hire. I think we talked a little bit about there earlier, because everyone was trying to anticipate the gap that's needed. But how do you anticipate it? Because the industry might change fast, and as CY also mentioned, the market needs also change fast. And now you're also moving from COVID back into the original business. Maybe CY, would you like to start with this one? How do you anticipate the needs within the organization, especially when healthcare is so specific? At the same time, the industry do change so fast.
Well, I thank you. I think we are in a very unique position where, in terms of like in the position that we're in the healthcare sector, we're more like in the more front-running space. So on one hand, of course, we need to look at people technically, they are capable, scientifically, they're capable of helping the team. But at the same time, I think in terms of, like I mentioned, the product, the technology that we're using in terms of I'm not talking about the scientific technology of our product, but rather the IT, the cloud, the apps that they will be building up. I think that piece we're more like in shaping the industry rather than following what would happen. So I think we're in a good position where, like I mentioned, we start like for a very small team. Now we're growing bigger, and even within the past 12 months, we've been trying to expand the team with new leadership coming in. So we want people who are also from other tech company. Not necessarily healthcare, but tech company or startup who can also bring in things. So when you talk about adaptive, I think we're also mindful that it's not only about industry, it is also about the stage of the company. So there are obviously many other healthcare companies out there been very long time, like the farmers. But if you look at the culture, I think it is completely different. So when you talk about adaptive, I think first of all, you start with hiring the right person that could fit in the culture. And to be able to do that, I think what we need to do is to make sure that the culture is well stated and could be articulated to everyone, not only internally, but including candidates or even externally, like a brand, like the EVP of the company. So I think with that, when you are like more in the front running, you can set up what you want as a culture. You can also think about how you're going to make use of the most advanced technology. So I think it is more driven by hiring and then also helping the internal team to gear up. And the good thing is, like I mentioned, most of our colleagues, they're young, they're actually very tech savvy. So I think it's easier for us. But of course, we are also mindful that at times there will be some other people coming from bigger organizations like myself. So we also need to be adaptive in the sense that we also need to be able to help them to integrate well into the team.
I guess you're quite lucky with being a growing company. Then in terms of hard skills, you need all kinds of them in all different ranges. But then I guess the soft skills will become the priority for everyone, especially with a younger generation or less experienced managers or senior management in the company. I think on the other flip side, or different, a whole different opposite setup would be in SoGen, right? Like, because it is obviously a more established organization, and it's much bigger as well in terms of probably operation and scale. And Mukta, how do you guys anticipate skills that's required and identify gaps?
Yeah, so it was quite interesting to hear CY, about Prenetics, where they are shaping the market, which I think is a great thing. For us, it is more aligned with what is our strategic plan, for the next few years, which are there. And what we want to be as part of our, mission and vision statement. So for us, for example, for the next few years, we want to focus on ESG, environmental sustainability and governance. as well as on data and innovation. And as I said earlier, that of course we have competition, and you mentioned, Sheila, that there are fintechs which are there. So for us, these are the three things that we feel are the skills of tomorrow, and we need to really pay attention to it. And then what we do is then align with our leadership model, what are the values that we have, and what CY spoke about, the culture fit, which is based on our leadership model that we have. What we do is our training and development offers are all attuned towards that, So we will have an offering which is for ESG for all the employees across the world, climate fresh, biodiversity fresh, etc. We want to create awareness for all employees and for, of course, the businesses, because it has a big business impact for us, So there are different ways of upskilling them in this field. Data and innovation, we are doing it for a few years now, but the focus is, of course, also much more now to make sure that people are aware of it, but also are becoming skilled at it, in the next 2 or 3 years, because some of our jobs will tilt towards that. Now, for us, we have people from all generations, so at least 4 generations, I can tell you, are working together. So the pace of learning, the way we deliver, it all depends, and we have to really make sure that we have different modes of delivery to make sure people are upskilled in these areas. So yeah, I can say that at this point of time, we basically will align with our business needs and our strategic plan, and then really go deep dive into it and make concerted effort. So it's a lot of effort right now on these 3 topics, apart from the hard skills and the soft skills, which all of us have to do to make these a reality in future.
Great. I think you mentioned, part of the strategic plan is the use of data. Can I follow up a little bit? Because you mentioned previously before about, the use of analytics. Has that been helping, maybe for your team as well, when it comes to identifying gaps within the organization and analyzing, skill sets within the organization?
So so data, overall for the bank, it's very important. For human resources, we actually set up a people analytics team a few years ago, only 1 person to start with. And then we looked at our static data and then really cleaning it up, making sure that the static data, which we already have in our HRIS systems, variety of sources, how can we use it for decision making? So over the years, we have become better, and we have increased the number of people in the team, because we do feel that the data related to recruitment, the number of candidates who apply for us, how many offers are rejected, how many people are in the talent pool, the age group, attrition data, all those simple data. But when you really put them all together and then link it up, the story actually can be very powerful. And it really helps for us, for example, when we are looking at policies, when we are looking at paying more attention, for example, on training and development, paying more attention to our recruitment effort, the turnaround time, all those things, it has really helped us, to improve based on the data which is there, the diversity data, for example, which is there. So right now we are still into the static data mode, and this year we are hoping that we will move into the predictive analytics mode, where we can really anticipate, some of the things that are going to happen, and how we can either prevent it or become leverage on what is going to happen in future. That's my ambition. But right now I can say that on the static data part, which we already have, we have made a lot of progress, and I can tell you this is the future anyway. We can't do anything without data, and in HR we are benefiting from it, and we are helping the business move forward with this.
I see. Yeah, I think data is obviously very important across different industry. But I guess for technology sector, Christophe, we'd like to share a little bit, how maybe does data play a role in your organization in terms of identifying skill sets, or and how technology play a role in some learning and development initiatives within Panopto.
Sure. So obviously at Panopto, since we use a very technological platform, we obviously identify how our clients are using our platforms to be able to influence our product roadmap. And when it comes to learning and development, we would have a different approach on the first one, which would be the technical team. Since we update our platform usually on a monthly basis, we have regular product updates. we constantly invest in our platform and update to make sure that we have a powerful technology that allows to give a good service quality to our clients. And based on this, we would identify the training needs for engineers to be able to update, maintain our platform so that we can be every time using the best technology available. So that's the first one. And so we have dedicated training sessions where we ask the best engineers to record training sessions on a specific topic that they share across the organization, dedicated training path for our engineers so that everyone is at the best knowledge possible. For non-training, for non-technical people, here we have provided access to LinkedIn Learning platform so that every employee can access any training they may see fit as part of their learning goals. We review through our yearly review process what impact the trainings have been on their own career progression and satisfaction. And we constantly measure employee satisfaction. We also make sure that since we have also internal training videos, we have data analytics that we use ourselves to understand which are the videos that were the most viewed, engagement throughout the sessions. We make sure that those are interactive with quizzes, using quizzes, for instance, to provide a on-demand learning experience that is fit to where the employee sits. So that's a whole approach that we have applied at Panelists.
I guess, eating your own dog food or trying your own product to start with, and then before you could tell people how good or what are the loopholes were sometimes as well. So that's a great way, I guess, in learning and development. Before I move on, asking more questions, I just want to invite all the audience, and delegates. If you got any questions, feel free to post your questions and take the brain of our experts here, or our panel of HR practitioner here, to share, the experience. There's a Q&A button at the panel, at the bottom of the panel, so feel free to ask questions from there. I think we talk a little bit, about how to identify gaps and how the organization be a bit more adaptive to be a workforce that's more adaptive to the industry change. I like to learn a little bit also more from both CY and Mukta about some of the R&D or learning development initiatives within your organization. You talked a little bit about the general strategy. Are there specific learning programs, measurement, KPIs, and all that around it? Can you share a little bit with that about that with us?
So do you want me to start?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so we have around 2,500 employees in the region across 12 countries. And frankly, with the pandemic that was going on, we were forced to put everything virtual, and which was also a good thing because we were able to have a wider reach for the programs which earlier we were doing, in person in some locations. For us, we have how we divide our offerings is that we have a talent development suite for people who are high potential. And we have a number of programs starting from the junior people rising potential, which we call accelerated development program, to for women talent, which we call Spectrum, to senior people, which is CEO Club, Impact, and Destiny X. So these are our branded programs which are there. And then, of course, these are the ones who are taken out from our high potential pool. And then we do it. And now we are doing everything virtually across the region. And frankly, it's modular, so it's over a period of time, and it works pretty well because with technology, you can use a number of things which are Mural or other Klaxoon collaborative tools which are there. So for us, I think that is working pretty well. Then we have around 13 learning platforms, online platforms for all employees, including the famous ones what Christoph spoke about on LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, and some others for language learning, but also specific for managerial learning, for example. And we offer it to all employees along with a lot of virtual programs with in-house trainers and external. Again, for me, it is different modes of delivery, and what suits best to the different generations that we are coexisting in our organization. What I feel is that these are all anyway aligned to our business plan. So we do a gap analysis, we discuss with the managers before we finally have our offers which are there. What we do is we leave it to the employee and the managers to really decide in their objective setting, what is it which will be more useful for them. And then they choose out of the thing. We do have a robust training budget, which has been frankly quite consistent for a long time now. At least I can tell you 10 years. So it has been quite good. And I think employees have to also show that along with their managers that they are in charge of their own learning. It's not like they should be fed something. What we do is we curate the training and development offers. Apart from training, we have development programs. We also have things where we have internal workshops or sessions where employees are talking about what they are doing, what their department is doing, so that other people can share. For example, in HR, we do what we call synergize. That means somebody sitting in India, HR can have interaction with somebody sitting in Japan, HR, to see what their daily life is like. And we are going to start it now at a global level with our teams in Paris versus in other regions. So all these things are actually part of our development tool. And apart from that, we also have mentoring, which is reverse mentoring, group mentoring, and also the traditional mentoring. What I feel is that from a HR perspective, we curate all this and have this offer. But finally, it's for the employee and the managers to decide what works best for them. We will help them to understand what it means, but they have to take charge, because this is what I have realized, that if you feed people things and tell them what you need to do, it may not have the best impact. But I think if people have to really understand this is what they need and this is how we can help them. So we keep it a little bit more employee-led training, learning and development for us.
Yeah, so I guess providing that platform, but at the same time, trying to build a strategy around or policy that will align with the business strategy. Yes. Then there are some that are mandate or encourage, and there are some that are just open for everyone to try it out in a sense.
Based
right?
on their
combination.
Also, maybe before I finish, I just wanted to say that because there's so much available, for everybody, all of us, So that's why sometimes I feel that the training paths, which were quite prevalent earlier, for me, it doesn't work, because I may have done something. I may be an analyst, but I may have learned on my own, and I have a level which is as much as that of a VP, So sometimes the training path for me is an obsolete thing, and that's why we leave it a little bit more open for managers and employees to build their own training path. Yeah.
Great. And how about for CY? Do you?
Well, I can definitely sense that, Mukta, your team is so busy just on the learning piece, so many activities. I think I came from a more, like I mentioned, more established environment where we all, well, back then we also had a lot of different kind of learning or training initiatives, workshop programs. But here, I think I am definitely aligned with Mukta, what you mentioned about the ownership thing. I'm relatively new to the team, where I think I know that before we also have the kind of like spoon feed training to the leadership team, where I sense that the effectiveness is not that high, obviously, because first of all, they don't know what they don't know, in a sense, and they don't know why they have to attend all these kind of things, and they're busy. And I would say we are not obviously there yet to be so sophisticated in like providing learning or training programs to our team. But what we have done in the past 6 months is, like I mentioned, we started to basically revamp the values, and then started to articulate to them and what kind of behaviors or skill set that are tied back to these group of values. We call it the DNA, because we are in the genetic space. And then it's not only about telling them, it's obviously also about tying the DNA into performance. So earlier this year, we also have our very first performance review that is not only focusing on the achievements or on the KPIs. We also talk about how they deliver their job. So based on the DNA. So I think it's you got to tell them that this is something that are expected from the company, and these are the ways that if you really want to progress in your career, you got to demonstrate. So it's not only about what, it's also about how. And now we're also working on what we call the MVP, the minimum viable product, for the learning programs, or basically a platform that we want to launch internally using simply by Google side. So what we want to do is we lay down a set of leadership skills, tie them back into DNA, and then try to launch it, also tied to different kinds of self-learning resources. So that we can launch to everyone, so they can spend like 30 minutes, 45 minutes within their work, out of their work. And then of course, we'll also ask them to come back to talk to our learning team. So that it's not only about like reading the information or the materials, it's also about having the chance to practice. Because for us, I would say, I have to admit that in the past 24 months for us, the team has been crazily busy. I'm not saying that we will not be busy down the road. It's just that we have some room for us to take a breath. And then now we want to launch that. And I would say, as long as the people, especially young people, they know that these are the skills that they need, expected by the company, I think they will have the motivation. And of course, like Mukta, you mentioned, I think the ownership is not only on the employees, but also the leaders of those teammates. If they are not encouraging or basically facilitating them to learn, it's useless, right? If they keep saying that, hey, we're so busy, don't spend time on that, it's not going to work. So I think we are also in very frequent communication to leaders about the importance of just letting them, and also monitoring and encouraging them, the teammates, to learn. I think this is a combination of different things if you want to really build a learning culture within the team.
Yeah, I guess it's as mentioned in probably an earlier panel about carrot and sticks, right? So you have to lure them at the same time, also have some sort of structure around it to create that culture of, you know, people more willing and exciting to learn. I think I want to ask Christophe the next question, which is about, you know, the format of learning. I think both CY and Mukta has mentioned about, you know, different programs, and, you know, with you at Panopto, you probably have, you know, tried internally how video works, and, you know, help externally clients using video. Can you share a little bit of with us, you know, the different type of format or media that learning and development sometimes work better? Because you mentioned a little bit something along the line of, you know, gaming or some kind of like polling as well, or interaction. Can you share with us a little bit some of the experience that you have, you know, observed and particularly work in Asia? Because I think people tend to be a little bit like sit back, relax, and just like whatever. Yeah, but how does, you know, different platform or more interactive platform play a role?
Sure. So I would take the example of one of our clients, which is Qualcomm. Qualcomm, it's a chipset maker. They are present in a lot of electronics-based devices. And what they've done is that they've launched what they call the Qualcomm Wireless Academy. And they actually have 50% of their employees who are based in Asia, and they are remote. Some of them speak English as a second language. And for them, it was very important to be able to complement in-person training with virtual instructor-led training. And what they did is that they focused on 5G technology. So their goal was to be able to train their own engineers, but also partners and companies they work with, for them to understand how 5G works, how to deploy a network, etc. And so what they found is that video, on-demand video, was a great complement to traditional training done in a set of a classroom, I would say. Why? It allows the person to decide when and where they want to get the training. So if you have the training available on video, you can watch it when you are on the MTR, for instance. If you have, you can set dedicated time in your workday to say, I'm going to focus on this course. So they have more than 50 courses, and that's available remotely. And what they saw as well is that it obviously had an impact on the company's operation costs, because you obviously reduce the amount of travel that needs to happen. And they used a lot of quizzes. So as part of their programs, what they decided was to, in addition to, you know, the instructor-led training, they put some quizzes along the line to do two things. One, to provide some interactivity so that people had a way to consider whether they had to properly listen to the information, but also provide a way for the company to track whether the information they were sharing was properly received, recalled, and remembered. And it's been very successful. Now, a big portion of Qualcomm global training strategy is leveraging video.
Mm-hmm.
It can be an hour longer training, but we also advise our clients to do bite-sized video content, so 5 to 7 minutes, that is easily viewable. And it has helped them be seen also as an innovative company that provides to employees and partners a new way of training that's fits with our daily lives. We are all very busy, to ensure that learning is part of the schedule that people are happy to build.
Great, yeah, great sharing of cases, and I think like you're nailing on the spot about the bite-sized training, right? I guess instead of watching 5-7 minutes of video cats and dogs fighting, it might be more productive or learning something by 5-7 minutes of micro learning that would be helpful also for personal development. Before I continue with the question, I want to address one of the questions from the audience earlier. It's not exactly about training, but I think it might be related, because this audience, this delegate asked the question about, under the current trend of a great resignation, how can we as HR practitioner retain talent? Maybe I'll just throw this to everyone, because I think there was a question that was posed in the previous panel, but we didn't get a chance to really look into it. But I think it probably works well also for this panel too. Does anyone like to give it a try? Mukta, would you like to?
Maybe.
I saw you unmuted.
Yeah. No, I think this is, we are facing it every single day, all the HR professionals. For me, I think it is really understanding your people well, because when whether we say great resignation or reshuffle, I mean, for example, in Hong Kong, we see a lot of people are also going to competitors for higher salary, so it's not only changing priorities in life, it's also the same thing. No, I think for me, how we can retain people is really getting to know them better and what really motivates them. And as we all know that it's everybody is motivated differently. And I think with the help of managers, with the help of HR business partners, that's for me is the most important thing. If we really know what is it that motivates people and are able to customize what we offer to them in that way, I think people do feel important. Now, I'm with my bank for 16 years, so it is, I'm also there because there are certain things which really spoke to me and really reverberated with me, and fulfilled my desires, what I wanted from my professional career. And I do believe that, and we do have a number of people like that. I'm not saying that people should not change jobs, because I think it's also good to see what's happening here and there. But I think some amount of stability in somebody's career is quite important. So I think for me, that is quite important. The manager plays a very important role. If they are not good, you cannot do it. You can have thousands of initiatives in the company, nothing will work. So that's why managers as coaches, it's not, for me, it's not cliched, it's really important. I think that's the other part. And the third, if the company is caring, and this also comes from people around you, people feel that they are there when they are going through a tough time, and the company and the managers are able to support them, then I think that bond becomes quite important for me. And for me, these are the things which retain me. And I think for a lot of people, I think it works. Yeah. And I'm not discounting salary, because I think compensation has to be at a good level, but that's not everything. A lot of people I've seen is they are there because they are valued, they feel they are cared for, and then there are managers who are really investing in their development.
Yeah, I guess that part really related to our audience here, right? Like about investing into their development. Asiwa, would you like to share your thoughts on that question as well?
For us, I think some obviously similar thoughts, like Mukta, like the flexibility, the culture, the caring. But I would put it in, if you look at the more intangible side, again, I think nowadays, especially the younger generation, they really need to know why they want to join a company. So basically what you need to do is to tell them why we are here as a company. and how could you contribute together with the company for something that is bigger. So again, going back to the culture bit and also the mission. So like ourselves, we're talking about bringing health closer to people. And we're not like, and once again, like I mentioned earlier, we're not like the more traditional way of bringing health closer to people, where we want ourselves to be a front runner in this space. So to that, I think it's already telling, obviously together with the ambition that we share with the team, they have a feeling that they're joining a team that are really making some impact. It's some meaning for themselves. I think this is on one hand, something that would really attract and also retain talents. And also on the more intangible side, I think it's also about the flexibility that you're going to offer to them in terms of work pattern, or not even on whether you want to work like hybrid mode or what. It's also about the opportunities within the organization that you can offer to them. So probably they want to do something this year and something else the other year. So the diversity of job nature within your organization, if it is broad enough, probably you can also think about some formal or even informal way of just redeploying them into different projects. Especially for us, we hire people originally probably for like the COVID project. But then now we got to think about how we're going to redeploy them. So I think this is also something that is intangible, but related to their career, where they would love to continue working for us. This is for the intangible part. For the tangible part, I think for us it's easier. But I also read from a recent research that because of the Great Resignation in the US, there are 25% of the companies they're now offering equity as part of the compensation. And for us as a startup, now going to be listed next month in NASDAQ, I think this is something that we also should look at. So using one of the program that in my previous company, the co-ownership. So you got to give them a chance to really invest or be part of the company and have skin in the game. So I think this is something that also as the HR on the comp side that we can think about, not necessarily like the executive comp, but even a small portion that would be significant to as part of their compensation would be good enough.
That's interesting. Not only the company investing in the team, but also the team investing themselves into themselves and also into the company. That's interesting. I think I'm a bit aware of time and I'm being pinged about time and stuff. But I just want to have one last question to the panel here. Maybe a giveaway or takeaway. Sorry, a takeaway for our audience here, because we talked a lot about building a more adaptive workforce through learning and development. In terms of a takeaway for our audience, what do you think are the first step it takes to build that? Like, would that be somewhere along the line of developing a program or getting measurements or finding a right format? I'll pose that first one to Christophe. Would you like to give us a quick short a conclusion or advice in terms of building adaptive workforce?
Yes, my recommendation would be to set a program that's aligned with the company key strategic directions. At Panopto, we use OKRs, so objectives and key results, that allow the organization, so the different segments of the organizations to align on common goals. We publish these goals, so we review them on a half-yearly basis, and the capacity for the L&D initiatives to be in line with the company strategic directions with clear goals, KPIs, initiatives that we measure. I think it's key, so that everyone understands also how the different teams can work together to achieve the company goals. So that would be capacity to track the initiatives and understand how much it contributes to the company's success.
Not only intangible value, but also the tangible measurement. Mukta, would you like to?
For me, I would say that please involve your users, maybe using design thinking, in the development of the program. What we have seen is that the buy-in is much higher, and it also works. It's to the point. It's linked to the strategy, but it's also linked to what people really want. So yes, that's my advice.
Sort of interactive curation of learning and development programs in that case.
Yes, user involvement in the design of the program. Yes.
And CY, lastly.
I think for me, it's So before we really look at the strategy or the ways of doing whatever learning initiative is to understand the stage of the company. So for myself, I think I spent quite a lot of time when I first joined this company that I need to unlearn what I've learned in my past experience. So I think to be able to really have the capacity to learn something new, probably unlearning something is what we should also do as the HR practitioner, because we've got plenty of experience. But then we cannot just rely on experience. We also need to like really look into something new. But before that, probably you need to be true to yourself and unlearn what you've learned.
Yeah, unlearning what you have learned. I think that's really a good insight, and great for a good wrap up for our panel here today. Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to thank all the panelists for your insightful sharing.